With the Bluelock Japan vs England game now underway, we now know who is in the starting 11 for Bluelock Japan, but we don't know who will be the substitutes for this final game in the group of death. So it is my job to figure that out today as an early prediction, a super early one at that. So before we start that, make sure to hype, share, comment, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel for more content. Join my Discord as you can drop more video suggestions and hang out with Bluelock fans. And lastly, my 3-year YouTube anniversary is coming up, so time for a Q&A. So put it in my Discord or YouTube platforms to get your questions answered by me. Anyways, back to the video. First of all, let's analyze who's the most likely to not get benched, starting off with Bluelock's hero and ace, Yoichi Isagi. Considering Eagle didn't bench him for doing absolutely nothing positive for like 90 minutes and still being in the starting lineup because of his adaptability, and that helped Bluelock almost equalize against the champions in France. That is a truly remarkable feat at that, and shouldn't be swept under the rug. He always adapts near the end of a game and always shows up when it matters the most. So yes, I think he will stay the whole game given his end of game feats, always making big time plays, whether goals, assists, or big time chances. So there's pretty much no chance of bench Isagi happening unless they give 6-0 to whoever's in the quarterfinals and Isagi wants to take a break. Second is the defensive duo of RU and IQ. RU is the tallest defender in Bluelock and top 3 in jumping abilities. He is going to be key to stopping Agi in the air, and he hasn't gotten a single steal this whole tournament. His best defensive feat was blocking Onazi from progressing with the ball using his shadow domain. He isn't going to be able to pull that off against England as he wasn't able to in France, because that technique only works with teams that aren't relying on full explosive speed that thrives in open space. Ryu's technique isn't 100% about not letting people pass him, but more of letting people keep a space between them and not being able to break through that certain space. It's like a judo spacing principle pretty much. That's why he can't really use that weapon against England, that is a physically brutal team that relies on space and physical contact. So yeah, Ryu is in trouble and will actually need to use his greatest weapon, being his height and jumping abilities. He needs to be a force in the air, and considering that the only person who could fulfill his role is Kunigami, there's only a 10% chance, in my opinion, he gets subbed out, especially with the fact that he has the longest limbs in Bluelock. For IQ, he had an absolute stinker against Loki, and even Charles caught him lacking. We got like 5 Metavision users and Charles still put off those shenanigans. What a legend. IQ is physically the strongest in the backline, so he needs to really step up in handling the brutes England has to offer. IQ's training was on sports administration and King's Craft. In terms of King's Craft, when I look back online, it's actually a fast-paced 7-on-7 league, kind of like a Sunday league for those UK fans who know about it. So it gives you no time to be slow thinking or anything like that, which is why he was able to instantly react to Onazi's awakening, because that's how it'd be in England. So yeah, I feel like his original training was to understand the sport better. So with him studying this, it forces IQ to be faster and more direct with his action, especially since he always hesitates when it comes to genius gambling on chances. So he can be a more direct leader for his team and lead his team to victory. So to understand the game in a coach's perspective, which is part of sports administration's booklet, he can look at the game in a different viewpoint. We have seen him back up his boys in the Iron Wall Quartet, something we haven't seen here, and we haven't seen him duke it out with strikers in a 1v1 situation like how he did in the exhibition game and with Kaiser and Isagi. Still, he is a physical presence on the ground and in the air. Against someone like Agi, we will need that physical brute presence. We need the strongest and smartest defenders to lock in this game. Especially with Nico out, IQ will have more work cut out for him, and he is the captain. So if he gets subbed out, the team morale will be down in a sense, as he's always keeping it up by stopping fights between Isagi, Karasu, Rin, and Shido, and much more. I know it's scary because he can't handle situations with geniuses in a 1v1 like Rin, Onazi, and Loki, needing backup to help with Rin and Onazi, and he will need RU sub big time in order to stop England team, which I predict they'll have between 2 to 5 geniuses. So IQ should be fine, with the only possible sub being Kunigami, who has better specs than IQ. He just doesn't have the leadership or game IQ does. Third is Rail Mikage. I think he's definitely going to be staying, considering that this is an English Stratum game, and the only way he gets subbed off is if he is extremely tired from using all those copy abilities that he's probably going to use, kind of like a Kisei situation from Kuroko no Basket. But yeah, he is going to definitely pop off in this game, whether defensively or offensively. He might have some duels with Teddy, which will really push him to his absolute limits, or he might get cooked like how Hugo was pretty much making him ineffective for the majority of the France game. So yeah, Real has a 30% chance of getting subbed out, but not amongst my top 5 picks. Next one is a mixed bag, but it's Yohiori. I genuinely thought he was going to get benched for good in the France game. For someone I thought who was getting comfortable on the bench, he made a massive comeback in the France game by having a goal and creating a lot of chances for his team. Considering the fact that Karasu has taken over the stratum for Japan and the whole team system, he is definitely going to be strong in this game. With an insane striker in Shido, he can feed some mean passes too, like how Sai fed him. He can also make great plays to Isagi and Zantetsu and also correlate with Karasu again, but I don't think that will work as well as teams are getting used to it already. Zantetsu will most likely be in the Karasu system because he's a dum-dum, and Isagi and Hiyori already had great chemistry. So Hiyori has a lot of chances to make himself a big deal in this game. There's a chance he gets dropped off like Karasu might get dropped off in this game, but he realistically should be fine. The only people I can see him getting off for is Corona, considering his training was about endurance and he already has a fast-paced style, but that might be safe for Brazil, which is a more fast-paced game as well in its own way. But he still has a good chance of playing here considering how England is like the speed and rush mentality, and he had his best game against Manchester City. That was his best NEL game. Or the other person will be Kunagami. I think Kunagami would play a more offensive role in this game, and he might be more physically suited than Hiyori in this game, and especially in the later halves. But realistically, if Hiyori plays his cards right, he could be safe, but he is more in the danger zone compared to others. Maybe I should have saved talking about him for later. Now time for the last person I'm sure won't be subbed off, and it's Jin Kiora. Considering he is the borderline to victory, I'm guessing he is going to be more effective towards the second half and the ending of the game. So yeah, if you watched my goal scorers video, you would already know why. He does have a lot of people who can take on it, like Corona, Bachira, and Chigri, but narrative plot armor is telling me he is here to stay to provide an insane assist in the second half. Now for the first person who is actually getting substituted, for sure, it's definitely Shiguri Santetsu. He is not lasting a full game. If Chiguri can't, he won't either. It's the way Kanashiro nerfs his speedsters. With all that running around the pitch, they're going to get tired and they can't keep it up for a whole 90 minutes. So yeah, especially with dealing with a world-class talent in Teddy Knight, he's going to be in trouble. And Loki didn't get tired because Loki's Loki, and Teddy Knight because only Bluelock will have subs. So those speedsters would stay on for 90 minutes. But someone like Zantetsu, when there's so many other options, is definitely getting benched. And the person I'm subbing him out for is the Great Devourer in Bluelock, Shorei Bao. He is definitely playing in this game with his training being perfect for this game. With his American football training meant to handle these English brutes, he will score in this game for sure. He gotta keep that scoring streak alive, and he has always been shown to thrive in the wing aspect in the exhibition game and against France as well. Bao was also protected when Teddy came, so he might get to beat him in this game. He should have no problems with these Manshine defender bums, but when he gets challenged, it's probably going to be for his training to be effective. So I think he has to face Teddy Knight or a really strong fullback on the other side. Also, Ego always likes to have a joker shake things up, and considering Bao doesn't really make chemical reactions and thrives more off of devouring people, it makes sense why Shido would the joker, considering Shido will have his PXG system supporting him in this game, which makes him a more reliable striker compared to Bao to start the game. And Bao also has a track record of never playing 90-minute games himself either. So him being a good super sub is always effective, and it restricts Bao to limited play where he has to explore with his War and Rage from the get-go. Next up to get substituted is Hyoma Chigiri for Kenyo Yukimiya. I think this English game will be very dirty. Lots of fouls, cards, racism, foul language, stuff like that. Stuff we've lacked since the World 5 days and the early Kaiser days as well. I think why Hyoma Chigiri isn't starting with Zantetsu is because, like Bao and Shido, you don't want to throw all your cards straight on the table off the bat. you won't have anything for later. Chigui's leg is a ticking time bomb, and considering Fox had Teddy Knight try to discourage Bluelock by destroying their best defenders and twin aces, it wouldn't be far-fetched if he already knows about Chigui's leg and is trying to target that in the second half, considering that it could break Japan mentally. And especially if Chigui has a good instant start, they're gonna really focus on breaking down Chigui. Either way, I still see Chigui cooking in this game, so it's gonna be fine. The third substitution who is coming in for Tabito Karasu will be Rensuke Kunigami. He won't be a central defensive. He won't be a CDM though, but he will be more of a offensive midfielder, as he will be swapping roles with Hiyori, and Hiyori can't handle the physical task of protecting the back line, so that will go to Rail. I think Rail will take Karasu's role and go all out offensively and defensively with his Charmeleon mode in the second half of the game. And this puts Kunigami in a position to either score for himself or assist Chigui. This would bring back the old Kunigami, and Chigui, who has been fighting the old Kunigami to come back, will be his shining light in this game one way or another in this game. I just expect some sort of chemical reaction between these two in some way or another. And considering the fact that Kunigami likes to do things fair, especially with the dirtiness I can feel that England's going to provide, it's going to really contradict with his old character, especially if they're harassing his best friend in Chiguri. So it would be like his best friend is getting done dirty because of the rudeness of the game, and his fair and sure mentality might come back again. You never know. It will start to crack for sure. I feel it coming. Now for the fourth substitute, it's Gen Fukaku. I think as the game progresses, Gagamao will receive the pressure of being a goalkeeper more and more in this game. So Kaneshiro definitely had Gagamao have a stinker for a reason, and it's always set up for him to be replaced. Fukaku has only 2 chances of playing, which is this game or a penalty shootout. And considering this is the final group stage game where they face elimination and they don't win, Gagamao will sink. And Eagle said he would take blame for anyone who has the fear of losing or anxiety kicks in, which makes it his fault. But in return, he might have to sub them off for someone who is ready and has full confidence in their. Now, before we get into the final substitution, I want to give a special shout out to Otoya, Corona, and Raichi, and Bachir as well. While they all had strong chances of being subs in this game, especially Raichi, I think them only getting 15 minutes of game time was to show that they were going to be utilized later, and they won't be utilized for the rest of the group stage, as Kaneshiro has a 26 character list to go through, with Zantetsu and Yukimiya and Kiora all getting their game time finally. I have Fukaku as a sub, as he's trying to get all 26 players on. So Otoya, Raichi, and Corona would be actually taking up too much space, as someone new wouldn't be able to get to play in Fukaku. And I could see a more interesting storyline than Raichi playing CDM, as we would have Kunigami and Chiguri. I think that would be a more compelling storyline. Raichi's training did look like it would be fit for England, but I just really don't see him fitting in this game. I really try to think of it, and there's just not enough story for it to work, honestly, compared to like the other 5 substitutions I had for this game. And also lastly is Otoya. I think Otoya could have played, but considering he played in the France game, he won't play in the England game. I originally had him substituting in this game instead of France, but he already played. So that means Kaneshiro is probably saving him for like the Brazil and Spain games. And for Corona, he might be saved for Brazil and Spain too, considering that's more like passing, dribbling games, and that's his thing, short passing like Spain does all the time. And for Batra, I would have loved to see him play in this game, especially with the Eagles 4 cheese, but I honestly see them saving that for like maybe Brazil or something else, for like Bachira, Kunigami, Isagi, and Chiguri to all cook. But if he was to play, I would see him subbing in for Hiyori, and I don't really see that happening. Last up to get substituted is Ryusei Shido. He has never shown the stamina to keep up in a 90-minute game, and especially as the poacher striker in this game, he might not be doing that much. But considering he didn't score in the last game, he will go all out from the start to get his goal. Considering he is the fastest person in Bluelock in terms of entering the flow, and that's what his training was for. But given his track record of never playing 90 minutes, now also with 2 strikers potentially hunting his spot in Rin and maybe Fantasy Rise Seishu Onagi, there is really a strong chance he gets subbed off. Either Reni Toshi or Seishu Onagi would be fine. With the god of football meeting Isagi in this game, there's a strong chance Nagi comes, considering Buratada likes to go back on his words a lot, like with Sai Toshi, and almost cancelling the Bluelock project itself. And it could be the reason why we saw Nagi hurt in the episode Nagi, or a side B might have not been done or just finished. And Buratada would overturn Eagle's substitution for Rin, and a Cure X Nagi finish sounds cool. The Divine Shinigami Death Striker of Japan chemical reaction interaction with the borderline, with God not even knowing what Kiora would do onto the play happens, gives a lot of divinity vibes. Either it would be fine, honestly. But Nagi has been having more narrative implications than Rin in my opinion, so I'll stick with my gut and say Seisho Nagi will play. Which means my red card theory about Rin Itoshi getting a red card in this game is probably not going to happen, and Kaneshiro would have to find some other way to have Sai and Rin not play together in the Brazil game. If not, that match would be overkill. Or maybe Kaneshiro wants the Itoshi bros to unite quicker than I expect. It's his story. I'm just a consumer of his product at the end of the day. So thanks to everyone who watched, and as always, until the next video, stay blessed. Suki out.